Thank you. It's great to be here. Good morning, and thank you, Novatore. Thank you, sponsors. Particularly, I'm really glad to have Mr. Ambassador Alessandro Monti from Italy here, and volunteers who made it possible for me to be here with you today and to visit Latvia, a country that is so rich in history. The kind of history that is incredibly important to remember right now in Europe. I arrived here 2 days ago, and I used this time to learn as much as I could about this incredible country, about its fierce spirit, its resilience, about the immense value that comes with keeping one's eyes on the prize and not losing hope for decades, if necessary. I must say that I am beyond inspired by the history of Latvia, and I am a bit mad at my history teachers in high school for not making such an important part of European history part of our curriculum. But then, you see, humans have been pretty bad at creating schools' curricula so far. If they hadn't been so bad, I probably would have no reason to be standing before you today. Had we been taught that women made history just as much as men did, there would have been no need for a book like Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. Over the past few years, I traveled the world talking about the importance of gender equality. There are people, I learned, who believe that since there are a few more women in positions of leadership, since we broke the silence around the abuse, the violence, the double standards, our job is basically done. Well, as Madonna would say, are you ready to ride with me? Those people don't understand that the liberation of women won't happen until we overthrow the patriarchal system. And it is impossible to overthrow centuries of patriarchal domination with just a few conversations. I am a woman. I am a queer woman. I am a lesbian. School curricula, my family system, the books I read, the movies I watched were designed not to magnify my desire, but to belittle it, to diffuse it, to shut it down. Somehow, I was able to keep the fire of my desire burning. I didn't know which direction the flames would go. I didn't know what they would burn down and what would remain standing. Above anything, I desired to be free. One thing that I learned is that there is almost a magic power in our ability to stay close to our desire. It may take some time, but slowly we stop being defined by the gaze of others, and we start seeing ourselves in the mirror for who we fully are. Not just the pleasant parts, not just the nice parts, not just the easy parts, everything, good and bad. Only then can we start to embrace our full power. And we need our full power because we won't be able to overthrow the patriarchal system if we don't bring our best game to the match. For many people, in fact, the aspiration to see more women holding positions of power in the private and public sector is enough. While a wider participation of women in public life is crucial, in my opinion, that is not the goal. The goal is the dismissal of a system that is rooted in oppression and that sees violence and the predatory relationship with the environment as crucial to its survival. I will always root for women who break glass ceilings, but my heart belongs to the women who construct new buildings with no ceilings to break for anyone. I will always root for girls who take power, but my heart belongs to the girls who work every day to change power. The mindless accumulation of wealth, the constant quest for ways to dominate other people and other countries, the obsession with speed, the illusion of control are making us and our planet sick. I believe we have all read and shared articles reassuring investors that companies led by women are yielding better returns. I shared them myself. It's awesome, but are we really doing all of this just to give investors better returns? When I read those articles, I can't help but think that they are a way to reassure investors of the fact that despite being women, if given the opportunity, we can and will do the exact same things male entrepreneurs would do. But the reason why I am an entrepreneur is to try something radically different, to think and act differently, to explore every inch of my difference and to see where it leads. Cultivating our individual freedom is, in a radical way, asks us to be present to ourselves and to our lives every day, to take inventory of what's burned away and what's left standing, what we still need and what we need to leave behind, who we are still and who we are no longer. I didn't become an entrepreneur to let someone else decide what success looked like. When Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls became a smashing hit on Kickstarter, one of the biggest publishers in the world offered us a $1 million advance to buy the publishing rights. For two unknown authors, he was huge. It meant not only that we would make a lot of money, it also meant that we would be christened as legit authors by virtue of the fact that an established publisher was paying that kind of money for us. It was validation, something we are trained to crave. But we said no. At that point, we had proven that there was a market for our book. We had proven that we had been able to reach that market. Sure, we had never published a book before. We had no contacts with printers or distributors, and we just had a few months to figure it out. Also, if we went the self-publishing route, we would give up the authority that signing with a big publisher bestows upon you. Real authors sign with big publishers. It's only the lame ones that self-publish, right? Licensing the book to a big publisher was the reasonable thing to do. But we had not written a book for reasonable girls. We didn't sell the rights and built our publishing company while touring the world as the authors of that book. It was fun and brutal. We went from $0 to $25 million in revenues in just 2 years. It's easy to believe that our goal is to climb the social, economical, political ladder and to have more women walk in the shoes of many successful men. But this interpretation of equality lacks ambition. If we truly believe in equality, we mustn't fight to climb the ladder men built to enforce the idea that human beings are more or less valuable based on the amount of resources they were able to amass. Instead, we must get rid of the ladder. We must discern which of our desires were planted in us by a system that is destroying our planet and that continues to create massive inequality, and which desires are truly our own. We can't play by rules that were designed to diffuse our potential. I became an entrepreneur to make my own rules. I started Undercuts, my new media company, to discover what it means to make choices that are contrary to common sense, choices that reflect, honor, and magnify my difference, and that in doing so, reflect, honor, and magnify the difference of many other underrepresented individuals. It is a dangerous journey, and this is why events like this one are important. It is crucial to have each other's backs. But dear men, there are a few of you in the audience, but I haven't forgotten about you. I know this all sounds a bit scary, and I also know you have been trained to be detached from your feelings ever since you were children. So I understand that discussions about gender equality stir up very uncomfortable sensations that you may not know how to process. When women ask to be more visible, you may be afraid to become invisible. Once we begin to inhabit public spaces, are we not taking space away from you? No, because we are inventing a new space for us and for you. When we ask you to listen, aren't we taking your voice away? No, we are asking you to use your voice with more meaning and truth. Because when we learn how to listen to other people, we also start listening to our true self. When we ask you to take responsibility for your mistakes, aren't we canceling you? No. We are inviting you to be more visible, to be all-round humans, and to stop hiding behind your privilege or your position. Take it from someone who knows everything about being cancelled. No one more than us has been erased from history books, from scientific awards, from literature, from manuals, from newspapers, from radio, from magazines, from cinema, from television. The erasure of our voices is one of the cornerstones of Western and Eastern culture. I know. We are asking you to get off the rails. We are asking you to take a path without knowing where it leads. Cultivating one's freedom in a radical way means choosing to cross countries inhabited by wild monsters, woods full of ravenous wolves, bellies of whales. It means embarking on ships that will be shaken by the waves of stormy seas. Cultivating our freedom means believing that if a wolf eats us, we will find a way to get out of its belly unarmed. That in the belly of a whale, we will find the comfort of a candle. That our ship will not sink. But the history of Latvia teaches us that faith and hope can bend the arc of history. We are not simply trying to be part of the world as is. We are creating a new world, one that doesn't exist yet. The patriarchy had thousands of years to perfect itself. It's stupid to ask us to have a ready-made alternative. We need to try all sorts of things. We need to succeed. We need to fail. We need to trust our own eyes, our heart, our experience, and to be ambitious enough to know that our attempts, our experiments, our adventures are the building blocks of a radical revolution. We are trying to live a breathtaking life, a life of adventure. We are making history. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thanks.
It was very inspirational about this new world that we are creating. And I wanted to ask you a question. You already mentioned about this book and your travels and your experience of changing and coming out. But now you are a businesswoman as well. So maybe you could tell us about your business more, about creating this new world.
I started my second company when I moved to Italy in the aftermath of COVID, and it's called Undercats. And the mission of Undercats is to radically increase diversity in children's media. And the idea is that if we start seeing more models, more role models in the books that we read, in the cartoons that we watch when we are still very young, it will be much harder later on to convince us that there is just only one way of being normal, and that is white, heterosexual, and male.
And it's in Italy or it's international?
It's an international company, yeah.
Great.
The headquarters are in Italy, though, because part of what COVID and the self-reflection that came with COVID meant for me was that I realized that I was ready to come back after 10 years in California, that I was ready to come back, and that I really wanted to build my second company from my home country.
And can you actually make a
and from Europe,
and can you actually make a profit out of that? Because it's an economic forum, and I think it's important that women get more money, you know?
Well, so far so good.
Yes, well, you're a celebrity. I think that also helps. Maybe you have some good example from your company, or some cartoon or some character that you've used. Maybe we know something internationally. Or
I still don't have anything translated in Latvian, but for example, to give you an example of the kind of projects that we've done, there is Elves on the Fifth Floor. It's a Christmas novel starring a biracial family with 2 moms and 3 kids that came out in Italian, Swedish, Spanish, Catalan, and German. And in Italy, for example, that was the first time that a book featuring a lesbian family reached the top charts in our country. So this is one kind of project, but there are also other kinds, like, for example, next month, we're going to release the first podcast production of Undercats, which is called Electric, the Future of Energy. And it's a podcast for teenagers about the future of energy and the challenges that we're facing with the energy transition. So it's, sometimes people like to say that kids are the citizens of the future. And I've never believed that. I believe that children are the citizens of the present, and should be treated as such. So the work that I do tries to tell them compelling stories that are rooted in reality and in the present moment in history that they're living in, rather than in fantastic worlds, because I believe that gives us a better opportunity to grow accustomed to being passionate about what is happening around you, rather than trying to escape to a fantasy world and not caring about your neighbor or your neighboring country, etc.
Well, my personal belief is that, if you want to change something, for example, the climate change or address climate change issues, one of the things is to, address young people first. And second, my strong belief is address them in the, language of art. Either it's visual art, literature, poems, movies, whatever. That's my personal belief. But I've been taught by books that I've read, Astrid Lindgren, with the strong girls like Pepi, like Ronja. Who is your favorite character from your childhood? What was your inspiration?
I think, from my childhood, I must admit that the vast majority of the characters that I was surrounded by were male characters, and this is the reason why I wrote Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls. In general, there are certain characters that I found out about in the book that I know would have been a great inspiration for me when I was a child. One of them is, for example, when I found out this story about Julia Childs, the American chef. She started her career in the Secret Service. Not many people know this. And she was given this task. There were sharks that were swimming close to submarine bombs that were meant to, underwater bombs that were meant to target Soviet submarines. And they were defusing these bombs. So she was tasked with, how do we keep sharks away? And one of the first things that Julia Childs cooked were these disgusting, rotten shark meat cakes that were immersed next to these bombs and actually worked to keep sharks away. So these kind of stories, really would have inspired me as a child, because they have many components that my imagination is drawn to.
Is there anyone in audience who wants to work or have a business that deals with the children or youth? Seems like not. Yeah, one or two, I see. Yeah, two. I think in Latvia it's very famous to have different brands for clothing, you know, working with that. I think we're big with try to export those things. But you know, you have found an amazing tool, you know, those good night stories, and now you're working, consulting and advising others. Maybe you could, even though there are
I'm not consulting and advising others. I am producing...
Just your own?
Yeah, yeah, I'm producing my own content. So
yes.
Consultancy is, you know, for me, it's something that I will do when I retire.
Okay.
For now, I am an artist, and I like being an artist.
Yes, and what are the first steps? I mean, we talked about courage in the very first session, about how we maybe, you know, Baiba goes to say hi to Liza Minnelli, for example, or I don't know, someone else meeting a president or whatever. What is your maybe advice, you know, practical advice, the first step if you do really change something? I really liked your quote that Baiba quoted about, you know, living in presence. Well, I mean, we all know living in presence is very important from, I don't know, starting from meditation until whatever, but we want to live in this time and not think about future. So this is a great idea, but what are the first 2 steps to take, you know, to be courageous? What it took you to actually, you know, was it the anger? Was it, you know, some people that you knew?
I think it's different things in different stages of life. So at one point in my life, it was anger, for sure, it was an important fuel. Then it became a sense of purpose. So the idea that the work that I was doing could inspire other people. Now I'm at a stage where, for example, prayer is very important for me, because it is a way that I can sort of, it's a space that I built for myself to listen very deeply to what I actually want to do. And that is very hard to protect this space, because when you are surrounded by you know, social media and lots of inspiring people and lots of chatter and the trends and the articles that we read, the newspapers, the newsletters, it's very hard to lose track of what you really want. And the feminist revolution, I think, requires us to be more connected to what we deeply want and to our deepest desires, rather than just being tools for whatever it is that the algorithms think that we should believe or do at a certain time.
That's a good advice. Did you also had some contacts in this, you know, let's say sisterhood or women community that helped you? I mean, forums like this when you make connections, or, you know.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
famous Michelle Obama quote: "Open the door and put the leg in it."
Yeah, no, for sure. Like surrounding yourself with people that inspire you and that make you feel supported, that don't make you feel judged, or is crucial. And events like that. I add one piece of advice, very practical, that I can give to all of you is add each other on LinkedIn. Add me on LinkedIn. So this is something that I always did over the course of my years in the US, whatever, you know, the conferences that I went to. And this really helps widen your network. And when you widen your network, your perception of the perimeter that you can operate in expands. It becomes bigger. So that is something that is very important. So don't waste on the opportunity and connect to as many people as you can.
And I actually I received some messages from people that they don't know how to use the LinkedIn QR code. It's very simple. If you open your application, you see the search bar. If you tap on it, you see on the right side there is a QR. So just press on it, because some of you tried, it didn't work. It's really simple. So on the right side, and then you put the phones, you know, you scan them, and it works. So today, at least you have to have 5 contacts, and I think maybe, as Francesca said, she's open also to be added in your network, so do that. Thank you, Francesca, for coming, and please use your time in the coffee breaks to talk to Francesca.
Thank you.